Welcome back to the Sneaks and Cleats podcast. This is episode 147. This is Halloween. My name is Matty Bobby. This is Texas Ranger. Chuck McIntyre.
It's Walker and Texas Ranger.
Just to let you know, if you're not first, you're last. And Chuck and I are going to do a little bit of shaking and baking up here for the next 30, 35 minutes.
What was the name of the character that Sacha Baron Cohen played?
Oh, God, I don't know. What
was his name?
We're not going to kiss. We're not going to kiss. That's for sure.
No.
That's what happened at the end of the movie.
I was going to say that's my costume today. I'm an old man stretching the outer limits of his own sexuality by wearing a pink shirt. So
I love the pink shirt, man.
Okay.
It looks good.
Oh, it works well with the tie, I think.
I think so too. I like how Thursdays you're all dressed up, and today I look like this. So.
Coming from work, dude. This is the way it goes.
Coming from work to work.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, happy Halloween to everybody out there. Obviously, I am Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights, Ballad of Ricky Bobby, one of my favorite movies of all time. Tonight on TNL, I'm going to have 3 different costumes for you. So I have a Ron Burgundy, a Matt Burgundy, I have a Matty Bobby, and I have a hot dog costume that we're going to.
Matt Bobby is a doer. Matt Bobby isn't a thinker.
Definitely not a thinker. So before we get started, I want to remind everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel, both News 4 and Fox SA. If you're so inclined, download, rate, review on your favorite podcast app. Helps us out a lot. When we spoke last, the Spurs were 1-1. Not anymore. They are 1-3 now. And they just turned in a disastrous effort last night on national TV against the Thunder. The Thunder are going to make a lot of people look bad, but they made the Spurs look really bad. So Chuck and I, or Texas Ranger and I, will talk about the loss and hear from the guys after OKC, hear from Pop and Harrison Barnes. Plus, Cowboys getting maybe some reinforcements this week as they face the Falcons. Don't know if Deron Bland, Michael Parsons going to play, but they did come off IR, which is good. Is that enough to help save their season? We'll talk about that. Plus, Stephon Diggs tears his ACL, out for the year for the Texans. How's that going to affect CJ Stroud as they go up against the lowly Jets tonight, who are a favorite in that game? That's
the Jets are the favorite.
That's a stinky line. Yeah, they're 2-point favorites in that game. That's a stinky line. That's Vegas.
Wow. Okay. I'm not a gambler, however.
Yeah, right. All that plus we got high school hype squad for week 10. We got our high school football preview for TNL tonight. Matchup of the week between Wagner and Bernie Champion. Plus we go over to TNL top 10 today. So usually I start with trivia, but my Halloween gift to you is no trivia today. So.
Thank you, MB.
Let's get right into the Spurs. So the Spurs lost to OKC last night. 105-93. It really was not as close as the final score indicates, in my opinion. They fall to 1-3 on the season. They lost last night's game, and it was the worst version of this team. It really was. They couldn't make open threes. I think they started 1 of 10 from the field from 3. They turned it over 22 times, which led to 27 points on the other side. Wemby probably had his worst game as a pro. He made his first shot, I think, was 2 minutes into the game, did not make another field goal all game, ended with 6 points, which is a career low. I think it was 8 rebounds, 3 blocks. Just simply did not play well. I think he had 4 turnovers as well. The team just looked uninterested for a lot of the night.
You know, they got off to a really good start, right? It was like, okay, they're here. And I thought the energy was pretty good last night, minus Victor. But I guess from what everybody's been spitballing is that he's a little under the weather. So,
yeah, he said that against Houston after they played Houston.
So, with that in mind, it's just sloppy basketball, right? I mean, they had, I believe, was it 13 or 14 turnovers by halftime? And then conversely, OKC was shooting the lights out. I mean, they had 13 threes in the first half. So although they weren't shooting it particularly well from the field, it was well under 50%. They were shooting 50% from 3, so that makes up for a lot. They've got a lot of shooters, to your point about them being a really good basketball team, but man, it's going to be really hard to win ball games if you're turning it over at the rate that the Spurs are early on in the year. I know they're juggling lineups and guys are getting used to playing with each other, but it just feels like in their zest to try to play fast, they're playing sloppy, trying to keep up with quicker teams.
Interesting note from last night. Coach Pop is usually a let's get it in the locker room, I'm going to go do my press conference kind of guy. He usually gets in, 5-10 minutes after the game. He's in the press room doing his 2 minutes and he leaves. Last night was a significant delay to the press conference, which was noted by guys here in town, Mike Finger and whatnot. So they asked him when he got in there, why the delay? And he said, I was talking to my team. And it was in one of those tones where it's like, I had some words for them after today, because that's the difference, I think, this year, is that he, I don't want to say seems to care more, but seems to be putting more effort into coaching them instead of letting them figure it out. But this is what he said when he finally did get to the podium, and Harrison Barnes right after him.
It's a very good team altogether. It's a playoff team that's very possibly go very deep into the playoffs and maybe do even better than that. So that's a fact. They're a better team than we are. But that's also beside the point. We're trying to get to their level. And it's basketball. It's the same things that get everybody to the next level, the next level, next level. And, the first thing for us is to realize it's a 48-minute game. The second half, we played them even. I think we scored a few more points than they did in the second half, actually, taking away the last minute and a half or 2 minutes. But that's 24 minutes. That's not 48. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for us to understand, that you have to bring it every quarter, every possession. And then the second thing is to take care of the ball. We gave up 27 points off turnovers again. We almost hit our record of 28 last year. We were one shy. That's not good. So that's where it's at. So give them credit. Hell of a team, really well coached. They're disciplined. They're consistent. I love their team. It's great. But I love my team too. But we've got more work to do than they do. And our guys have to understand that, embrace it, be professional about it, and want to be more consistent in all those areas.
Yeah, I think it's just watching tape and just trying to drive home our identity of how we want to play. I think we've done that in spurts, and I think it's very evident on tape, which we saw when we do that and when we don't. So I think it's just playing with presence, playing with intention, and sustaining that effort and focus.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that Pop said there are things that he said last year. I mean, you got to have effort for 48 minutes. You have to rebound. You have to play with reckless abandon, but you have to play within yourself. You have to not turn the ball over, and you have to shoot better. And the only way you make up for shooting poorly is by giving great effort, playing good defense, and not turning the ball over.
Yeah, and I liked what Harrison Barnes said about playing with intention, right? I mean, sometimes it just looks like it's willy-nilly, free-for-all. Guys are moving and they're trying to create some opportunities for each other. It just doesn't look like it's very cohesive at this point. And I don't know. We'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, I've never been an NBA coach. I've never been in the NBA, but I struggle to understand why it's so hard to be motivated night in and night out. Because it does seem like, I don't want to say they're taking nights off, but the way you look at it, I've seen such better efforts. I've seen halves, quarters with great effort. I've seen whole games with great effort in the last 2 seasons. And then you have games like last night where they take a half off, and then you're like, what just happened? I don't understand what the lack of motivation is there, or how hard it is to get up for every game.
I don't either.
I just haven't seen that in a lot of sports.
Well, and I can put myself in a lot of situations too. Like if I was a young guy in my early 20s and I had millions of dollars in my pocket, it would be probably pretty easy for me to, take a night off every now and then too. But, I'm not saying that that's what anybody did last night. I think sometimes if you're used to having things go against you, when things don't go your way in a basketball game, it's easy to kind of go, crap, here we go again. So, I don't want to make any excuses for him, right? That was you're right. I don't think the score was indicative to how badly they got beat last night, but they're going to have to figure something out. And I don't know if it's just time on task that's going to be the ultimate solver of the problem.
If you want to look at some positives from last night, which eternal optimist here, that last season that would have been a 40-point loss. I think CP3 had a run there in the third quarter where he hit 2-3. I think he had 8 or 10 points out of 12 that kept him in the game. Harrison Barnes had a great third quarter that kept them in the game. Those two guys kept them in it, and kind of when you have a team that can get checked out sometimes, older veterans hitting those shots to keep you in the game. I mean, they cut it to a 7-point game. It was 82-75 at one point, and then a 9-2 run by OKC kind of sealed it for them. But I think that's the positive here is you have those veterans now. You have those guys on this team that can keep you close, but you need Victor and you need Vassell, who obviously isn't playing right now. You need Jeremy, you need Keldon. You need those guys to pick up that slack. And the fact that this was a 12-point game at the end, obviously the final score is not indicative of how not close this game was, but to only have a 12-point game and Wemby probably play his worst game as a pro, I do take that as a slight positive.
Well, I mean, again, at some point, people are going to have to step up and start playing better basketball, right? I mean, you said Victor, right? Well, give him a pass because he's might have been under the weather all week, but he hasn't had a game yet where he's been on the plus side of the plus minus stat. Not one. His best is 0.
He's also been. I thought he got completely out physical yesterday. He got pushed around by, and they did a really good job double teaming.
Yeah.
They brought a lot of double teams. They brought guys from the weak side. So Victor had to try and get the ball out of his hand and make plays. Looked like the game was moving slightly too fast for him because he was just a tick behind on a lot of the passes.
I thought his energy looked a little down yesterday. And again, it may have something to do with
maybe
sniffles.
So tonight they hopped on a plane right after the game, head up to Utah to play the Jazz. 2-point underdogs tonight. Do they win tonight against the Jazz?
I would think, but I don't think will Wemby play on the second game of back-to-back?
That I don't know.
And has Utah won a game? I don't think they have.
Did Utah win?
I think they're defeated.
Are they?
Yes.
That I don't know. I haven't looked at the Jazz's record in a second. If you give me,
I think
Vamp for a second.
If I'm not mistaken, they are winless. Well, this was yesterday when I was looking at this stuff. But
they are 0-4.
Okay.
So I mean, we'll see. They're favorites tonight. I mean, the Jazz are one of those teams that don't care if they're first; they want to be last. So,
Ricky Bobby, huh?
Hey, I'm going to be dropping references all day.
There you go.
I do expect the Spurs to come out, like Walker and Texas Ranger on their grandpa chip and come out like a spider monkey, all hopped up on Mountain Dew. I do expect that a little bit tonight.
Classic.
And for them to jump on them. I do expect them to win tonight. I would say, especially if Wemby plays, I think that they'll come out.
And I didn't hear what the injury report is on Trey Jones. Don't think for 2 seconds they don't miss that guy too. I mean, he's good.
Malachi is just not Trey Jones. Malachi's good. I like
nothing
Malachi.
Against him. Yeah, Trey Jones plays with intention.
Correct. Yeah, Trey Jones is one of my favorite players on the Spurs. Just he's a great person. He's always in the community doing things around San Antonio. But 2, he's a good player. I like him a lot. So let's move on to the Cowboys here. So the Cowboys face Atlanta on Sunday. I believe they are 2.5, 3-point underdogs. Last time I checked, I can double check that number here real quick. They're hoping to get Bland back, maybe. He was DNP yesterday, I believe, even though he did get activated off IR. But that's more of a procedural move because if he didn't get activated off IR, then he would have had to be on IR the entire season. So I don't think we need to read too much into that. Parsons might be back this week. He was DNP yesterday as well. Zach Martin, DNP, I believe that was to be his arrest. But this team is still hurt, but they might get their reinforcements back. How much do you think that helps them this week?
Well, I think it would really help them if they got Bland and 11 back. But again, since 11's been out a month with a bye and he didn't practice yesterday, I would say that doesn't portend very well for him getting on the field on Sunday. That's a little bit of a surprise that now he's another week where he's not on the practice field on a Wednesday.
I didn't think that high ankle injury was that bad. I mean, apparently it is, but I didn't think when he did it, they didn't seem very alarmed. And this would now be the 3rd game he's missed, 4th game he's missed?
Yeah, I think it's the 4th.
This would be the 5th week he's out, including the bye week.
Right. So
that'd be pretty significant.
Now you're talking about, now it starts creeping into your mind. Like he's in a contract year potentially, right? He's got 1 year left on his deal after this. And so I don't know. You're running into that wall where, if Micah Parsons misses another game, is it really going to impact how much he gets paid in the offseason?
Probably not.
I don't think so either.
Atlanta's facing some injury problems too. Chris Lindstrom, DNP on Wednesday. He's dealing with a knee. Drew Dahlman was an ankle. That's their center. Looking at their injury report right now. Justin Simmons, all-star safety, all-pro safety for the Denver Broncos. It was limited with a hammy. Those are never easy to come back from. So they're not healthy either.
Nobody is this time.
However, I would say that the volume and the significance of the injuries definitely falls in the Cowboys' court because it's their top end talent.
Yes. And I want to be clear too about Micah Parsons. I was just spitballing there. I'm not Micah Parsons. That guy has played. I think the only game he'd missed up to this stretch was a COVID game, right? Because he had COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was ever because of injury at any level.
You don't want Micah to come at you like Trayvon Diggs did on that.
Well, I for sure don't want that. But no. I mean, that was probably absurd for me to even go there, though, given his history of never missing ball games.
So the injuries really aren't on the offensive front. Obviously, Brandon Cooks is out, but the injuries on the offensive front for the Cowboys is pretty minimal. How do you think they fix the offensive issues that they have when the trade deadline is on Tuesday? You have Steven and Jerry have made it very clear that they are not in the improvement business this season when it comes to making trades or being active in the market. So how do they improve this offense? And for me, it starts and ends with that.
Yes. And, again, time on task, right? I don't know that we've paid too much attention to the fact they do have two rookies and one playing the position for the first time at the pro level on the offensive line.
To that point, Cooper's played better than Guyton has, though.
You're probably right. I can't speak to, the PFF rankings and all that. You might have those and have seen them. But again, continuity wise, how long does it take for a unit that has two rookies on it to gel, right? Probably more than we've given it, to this point in the season. And I don't know if they're going to be able to figure it out in a lot of different areas, but you would assume that the more they play as a group, the better off they're going to be, because at least the lineup's been pretty consistent up there, which is not something that we've been able to say a lot during the McCarthy era.
It has, and Zach Martin hasn't played exceptionally well this season. He's had a down year by his standards, and his standards are as lofty as any offensive lineman in the history of the game. So that doesn't really help. Terrence Steele has had a brutal season. He has been exposed by a lot of different guys. Nick Bosa did it last week. They finally started chipping Nick Bosa, and then the other side started getting beat by Terrence Guyton. So Terrence has to step up big time on that offensive line. Cooper, I think, has played well, reasonably. Tyler Smith has played reasonably well. Tyler Guyton is a rookie, so he's going to have his hiccups, but I do like his potential. Terrence Steele has been probably the biggest disappointment on the O-line, which sucks for us to say as a San Antonio guy. So,
I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, when you're in a place where the Cowboys are, right, with as many eyes that are on the Cowboys, everybody's going to be under the microscope.
The line right now is 3. Do they win on the road against the Falcons?
No.
Do they cover the 3?
No.
I don't think so.
I'm in the old Bill Parcells mode now. It's like, I got to see it.
Yeah.
I got to see it at this point because of things, because like even last week, like they were there in the first half, right? And even though they were playing not great on offense, they still had the lead because their defense was playing well. And then it all went to hell in the second half. And so, maybe they made some strides last week to getting back on track and learning how to play differently with their big studs out. But I got to see it.
Let's go on to I agree with you. I got to see it too. I don't think that the Cowboys are going to cover or win this weekend. I'm so out on them right now. Maybe they will. They probably will. They'll probably come out and surprise.
We just jinxed them.
It's a 3-point spread. The Falcons been playing really well. So that defense kind of sucks, but we'll see. Let's go to the Texans. So Texans play tonight, Thursday Night Football. Stephon Diggs, torn ACL, out for the season. Nico Collins already out. The injury bug hitting the Texans in one of the worst ways right now. How is Stephon Diggs being out, also Nico Collins obviously being out tonight, going to affect this team offensively?
Yeah, I would hope for the Texans' sake that Collins is only out one more game because he's on the IR and he's due to come off next week. But I don't know. It begs the question, right? Did Diggs sign a 1-year deal?
He did.
So
they ripped up his old deal, gave him a 1-year deal, and it was like, you know what you want out of this? We know what we want out of this. So let's just do
and
this.
so it really stinks for him,
It
right?
does.
Obviously, because
that cost him some money.
Agree. So now, if you're the Texans and knowing that you've had some money allocated for this year at that spot, with the trade deadline coming on election day, do you then go out and make a move? Or, we talked about how deep they were at the wide receiver position going into training camp. Do you ride with the guys that you have? But I think it's going to be intriguing to see if they make a move for somebody before the deadline.
I think you still have a decent room. I mean, John Mechie got his career high in catches last week after Stephon Diggs went out, and he is a very good receiver that has been marred by one of the worst things you can be marred by, which was cancer last year.
Right.
Tank Dell coming back from that shot, or from the shooting that he took, from the bullet that he took this past offseason. So he's been slow to get up to speed this year.
Yeah, he's coming off a nasty leg injury too before the shooting. So there's a lot going on there in terms of him getting back to where he probably feels 100% comfortable.
I mess up this other guy's name all the time, Xavier Hutchinson or something like that. They have as well. They have good old Bobby Trees, Robert Woods. They got him as well. So I mean, they still have a decent receiving core. It's like you just don't have the number one that's going to dictate coverage anymore. You don't have Nico there, so everyone doesn't have to focus on him. When all your coverage is focused on a Tank Dell, it's not going to help you a lot. So people can kind of focus in now on a Joe Mixon.
Yeah, and there's still, man, Jimmy Ward has missed a bunch of games where I didn't think he was going to miss a month. I mean, man, my hat's off to these guys and what they've done last 2 years, right? Last year, they were one of the most banged up teams and still won a playoff game. And I've said it a million times, but again, they just have my utmost respect for how they've been able to pivot. Obviously, it speaks to their depth again this year that, even though they weren't at their best, they won a division game and now they're 2 up on the rest of their division, and they on the tiebreaker against the Colts. I mean, they're sitting pretty, even if they've got to, wait a week or two to get at least Nico back.
You mentioned the trade deadline. Do you think they should go out and get something, especially given the fact that all 3 of the top AFC teams, when you look at the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs, have already gone out and gotten themselves a weapon with DeAndre, with Amari Cooper, and with Deontay Johnson?
That's a tough one, right? Because there's always that learning curve, even though some of these guys are so veteran based. I mean, I guess it depends on who you could get, right? If you could go out and get somebody who you really deem as a difference maker, but if it's just going to be a guy that is going to be a number 2 or a number 3, I don't know.
Hey man, trade for Devontae Adams. He's not going anywhere.
I was thinking about Devontae too, but it was like I was thinking, like, so on the surface there, it's like, yeah, you'd want a guy like that, right? Unless you knew something about him, like he's trouble in the locker room or he's divisive or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that he is. Again, all these things, like, you don't want to upset the apple cart at this point if you're the Texans, just to bring somebody in for quote unquote depth purposes, unless it's somebody that can really, really change the look of your offense. If I'm them, maybe I'm trading for an offensive lineman, maybe on the down low.
Fair enough. Tonight, they are they're 2-point underdogs to the 2-6 Jets in the Meadowlands. The Jets are 2-6. The Texans are 6-2, and the Jets are -2 tonight.
You think Vegas knows something we don't? That's kind of
90. Last time I looked at it, because I always pay attention to this stuff, just because it helps me kind of gauge where the public is thinking and where the pros are thinking. 90% of the money, or 90% of the bets, are on the Texans. 90% of the money is on the Texans. Who do you think's going to win tonight?
Jets, Jets.
I would. Yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do know there's a lot of people in the world smarter than me. A lot of them work in Vegas, and if you're going to let the Texans public have 90% of the money and 90% of the bets, and you're going to make the Jets the favorites, I know they know something that I don't know.
I think that's reasonable to think in that direction.
So I would almost be surprised if the Texans win tonight. So that's just my theory. But
on the surface, as 2 analysts, you have to go with the Texans in this game.
Luis, you're pointing at that, but I don't have my actual glasses on, so you look like a big ass blur to me right now. 25. Okay, thank you. I was looking at that earlier because I have these obviously on. They're not prescription. They came with the costume, so I don't have my actual glasses on, and I was just like, I don't know what that means. Let's get to the high school hype squad here real quick before we get out of here. Also, a reminder: we will not have a podcast episode on Monday. We will not have a podcast episode on Monday. Everybody, get out and vote. Do your civic duty. Get out. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Just get out and do it. It's what makes us an awesome country is that it's a democracy and we can all get out and express our opinion, even if we all hate each other's opinions. So
that's right. And it's not a democracy; it's a republic.
Okay, sorry. Anyway,
see, we'll start with that.
At least it's not a monarchy, all right? Yes. Or any of the other types of governments.
Brother. Amen.
Let's go to the high school hype squad. So week 10. Actually, it's week 10. Wow. Sorry, I didn't update that super. It's week 10, not week 9. What an idiot I am. It's just flying by. It really is. Like, I can't believe that we only have 2 weeks left of the regular season. Did I? Okay, good.
You have a pen? I'll show you what time was like for me.
I don't have a pen.
Draw a circle here, and this is your walk across time. Somebody did this. And now it's like you're walking through that. That's what right?
It's going quick, man. It's crazy. So let's just go through the TNL top 10 real quick. There's not a lot of changes. Honestly, there hasn't been a lot of good games for the TNL top 10. So I'm kind of going to race through these a little bit.
And our poll has been essentially the same the last 3 weeks.
Exactly. I mean, the teams just keep winning, which is awesome for them. I mean, there's a lot of really good competitive races. We do have one top 10 matchup this week in the area, which is going to be probably the game of the year, I would assume. We'll get to that in a second. But TNL top 10, Piper is 8-0, 5-0 in district. They just beat the brakes off MacArthur. I feel bad for MacArthur because they're in a district with a lot of powers, and this happens to them a lot. The Warriors can lock up the district 13-5A, 1 top playoff seed on Friday. They play Victoria East 7 p.m. on Friday at Warrior Coliseum. I don't think I mentioned the score. It was 75-7 against MacArthur. Alamo Heights now 9-0, 5-0 in district. They beat McCullum 60-0. Mules clinched a share, of the district title. Now they look to close out the regular season. They would secure their 5th straight undefeated district run on Friday if they beat Kerrville Tivy, who is no pushover. They're 6-2. I saw them a couple weeks ago against McCollum. They are a very good team. So
1, 2, 3, dominate.
Steel 7-1. They are 4-0 in district. They beat San Marcos 63-0. The Knights have scored 49 or more in 7 straight games, including last week's 63-0 victory over San Marcos. They are at New Braunfels Canyon, who we saw last week, 7:30 p.m. on Friday. Southwest. All right, here we go. This is the main event here for me at least. Southwest 8-0, 6-0 in district. They beat Eagle Pass, win 31-10 last week. They are 8-0 for the first time since 2009. That is the season they went undefeated and then lost in the first round of the playoffs. They ended up finishing 10-1. Game of the week this week in the 5A1 Region 4 District 14. 2 undefeated teams. They played J, also undefeated, 7:30 Friday at Dragon Stadium.
We're going to have a camera out there?
Oh, hell yeah. Jack will start camping out right now. He is actually
get your tickets while they're hot.
Jack does not get too excited often. He is excited for this game. And Jack, our photographer, who loves high school football. He is stoked to see these two teams. Also, he's stoked to go to Dragon Stadium, which is one of his favorites.
Right. It is pretty slick down there.
Yeah, Don? Huh? Jack excited, yeah. I would say he's I know, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't get excited very often, but he's like number 1. Woo!
Yeah. All right.
All right. So that's going to be a really good game. Gary Gutierrez and
so you should send him to Gus Stadium.
Yeah. Let's send him to a Brennan game instead. No, that's going to be a really, really good game. I can't wait to see the highlights and see. I'm actually just going to be sitting there watching Jack's feed because that's just going to be a really, really awesome atmosphere and game for that. That's going to decide the winner of that district. That's going to decide a lot of playoff positioning for that district. It's going to be awesome. So Brennan is number 5 in our TNL top 10, 7-1, 6-0. They're just rolling. They won't lose or have a competitive game until they get to the playoffs, unfortunately. They won 52-0 against Stevens. They play Taft at 7 p.m. on Thursday. They can secure at least a share of the title if they win tonight against Taft. They play at Gus Stadium. And Taft lost, I believe, 49-7 last week. So Congratulations to the Brennan Bears. John Jay, obviously they are 6 in our TNL top 10. Obviously no changes here. If you guys have been listening week to week, not a lot of changes in the TNL top 10. Everyone keeps winning. John Jay 8-0, 6-0 in district. They beat Laredo Martin 31-12. Sorry, Luis.
Coach Double G is the original G.
Our Laredo fan over there.
Right.
The Mustangs approaching their program record for wins in a season at 10. So if they win this week, they win next week, they will tie it, and then they will need a playoff game to overtake that record. And Gary Gutierrez, I know, is working on that real hard. So they play Southwest, as we've already mentioned, on Friday, 7:30. Smithson Valley, number 7, once again in our TNL top 10 poll. They are 6-2, 4-1 in district. They beat New Braunfels in our game of the week last week for 29-18. Very good game. They ran away from them in the second half. Kate Spradling and I don't know why his name's escaping me right now. The running back Sowersby kind of ran all over the New Braunfels defense. It was pretty impressive to see. Rangers can clinch their 15th straight playoff berth on Friday, which they probably will because they play MacArthur 7 p.m. at Ranger Stadium. So Harlan, number 8, once again in our TNL top 10 poll, 7-1, 5-1 in district. They defeated Taft 49-7. They play Warren tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. And then after that, they play Soto to close out the season. So that'll be pretty good. They've actually made the playoffs with Eddie Salas and that squad over there. Made the playoffs all 7 seasons of the program's history. So very impressive on the north side of town. Sotomayor defeated Warren 41-0 last week. They're on a bye this week before they play Harlan to close the season. That'll be for second place in the district too. So that's a huge matchup next week between Soto and Harlan. And Johnson 7-1, 5-0 in district. They beat Lee. Lee actually put up some points, 48-28 last week. So that's actually a little surprising because Lee has obviously been down for a few years, but good for them to get some points on the board and give Johnson a little bit of a game. Jaguars look to clinch at least a share of the district championship with a win on Friday. They play Churchill 7:30 Friday at Comalander. Let's get to our TNL matchup of the week. Wagner and Bernie Champion over at Rutledge Stadium. You spoke to both coaches. Bernie Champion's head coach Blaine Ellis, second season as the head coach, but obviously been at the school for a long time. What did he tell you, and what did you learn this week?
Well, they're young, right? And they're not real excited, obviously, about the year that they're having in terms of wins and losses, but they are super, super young. So you got a sophomore quarterback that they're really excited about, and a bunch of underclassmen.
Sophomore quarterback was an offer to UTSA, doesn't he? I think I saw that on our
I think so.
Sheet.
So that's a tough league, right? I mean, and so I think for me, a lot of this is how Wagner has somehow pulled it together to stay in the hunt with what's going on there with them.
Yeah, I mean, their injuries have been outrageous. And Bernie Champion, obviously, they were, I believe, 8-3 last year, lost their first round playoff game. But it was a really good team. You had Gage Goldberg and all those guys on the sidelines last year, and it was a really good team. I think Blaine, it's just the life of a high school football coach.
Yeah.
It's the life of a high school football team. Sometimes you have good classes. Sometimes your classes take a little bit more work. And it's not saying that this class isn't good or going to be good. It's just sometimes you have those ebbs and flows, and that's kind of what Blaine has been dealing with this year, it seems like.
Absolutely.
Let's hear from Coach Blaine Ellis. I think that's the wrong thing queued up there, Luis. That's my Jacob Toby interview. It's the one on the right. 2 to the right. Yep. There you go. Go ahead.
Obviously, the season is not going exactly the way you guys had envisioned it. What is working and what do you like about what this team has done throughout the season?
Yeah, I think our team is relentless. We talked to them this morning. First thing this morning, we talked to them about how relentless they are. They play extremely hard. They practice extremely hard, and very, very proud of them week in and week out and what they bring to our program.
What does that say about the character of these young men that, for lack of a better term, unless you get a ton of help and everything works exactly right, the season basically now is just kind of like 2 games, but yet they're still coming out here. They're still putting in the work. They're trying to get better every single day. What does that say about the character of these young men that you're
very high character? We pride ourselves on being a program of character. So we talk about it all the time. And the reason is for moments like this. The beauty of this game is we have another opportunity this week. We're excited for the opportunity. Our guys are excited for the opportunity. And we couldn't be more blessed to be able to come play this game week in and week out. We got 2 more chances to go play this year. And if something crazy happens, it happens. That would be awesome. But we're excited for the opportunity.
So on these last 2 weeks, let's just say that things don't fall necessarily Burning Champion's way. What is it that Coach actually kind of looks for and works on in these last couple of weeks as you get ready for moving forward in the spring ball and into the next year?
Yeah, well, our message has been our focus is on us right now, and our focus is on this moment. We want to be the best we can be in every single moment, and that's what it's going to require for us to go get a couple wins to finish out the season. That's our goal. We're focused on the now. We're not going to start looking to the future just yet. We're focused on right now what it takes to get a win.
And what's kind of when you see Wagner on film, what are some of the things that they do that are going to present some challenges to the Burning Champion team?
Yeah, they're very physical up front. They love to run the football, and they do a good job of it. They're very well coached, and defensively they move around very well, and they give a lot of different looks. So those can present challenges, but our guys are up for it, and we're excited for it.
It's going to be a really fun game. Speaking of the Wagner Thunderbirds, Coach Jason Starren over there runs the military. That's correct. The military academy style offense. They run the triple option. They run the fullback dives and the jet sweeps and the orbit motions that'll get you outside and get people on the edge. Tell us a little bit about your conversation with Coach Starren and who we should watch out for tonight.
So they've got my utmost respect, and Jason does in particular, for what they've been able to do the last couple of years. You remember last year they lost quarterbacks on back-to-back plays to ACL injuries. Mm-hmm. It's been even worse this year, not necessarily at the quarterback position per se, but really across the board in terms of what they've been dealing with injury-wise. To their credit, they're somehow in a position that they can still control their own destiny, even in that league, for the final playoff spot. So I don't know how they've done it. And, I even gave Coach Starren an out. It's like, well, so in that regard, it's been a heck of a year for you. He goes, no, we got really high standards here. We shouldn't be in this position. We were running with Piper. We were right there with him. He went right down the list of all the bullies in the league, and they were right there in all those games. I think this is a really good team. They're obviously really well coached. They run their system better than anybody. But to think of what they've had to deal with in terms of kids that are banged up, it's just, we see it every week, right? How do you get these guys up to speed so quickly? It's really fascinating. And again, it's another sign that you can see with your own two eyes that these coaches really are great for these kids at, not only teaching them and coaching them up on the field, but what they're doing for these kids off the field too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they're even in the playoff hunt is very impressive, especially in that district when you have two of the best teams in our area. I believe two of the top 7 teams in our TNL top 10 poll, Smithson Valley and Piper, in that district. It's just not something to take lightly. And
no,
so
absolutely. Yeah. They got a good running back. They got a linebacker that, I can't wait to get into this story tonight too. That's turned down Oklahoma State, Purdue. He's going to play at Texas State. So there are going to be some dudes on the field tonight, as you'd expect. We see them every week, but it's going to be a lot of fun tonight for a lot of different reasons. And I think, Bernie Champion needs a miracle at this point. I don't think have been mathematically eliminated from postseason contention, but imagine being a young team like them and you get a game like this. It's blown up on not only TV, but the internet as well. This is a chance for them to make their whole season in one night.
Hopefully Coach or that young man didn't watch the Texas State game on Tuesday. Let's hear from Coach.
Well, probably not the exact way that you wanted the season to go, but you're still in the playoff hunt if you take care of business and everything kind of goes your way over the last couple of seasons. What do you like about this unit and where they're at right now?
Well, this team has done a good job of kind of plug and play. We've had some injury issues. We don't want to use that as an excuse, but we run systems on offense and defense. And so we've been able to use JV kids. We've been able to move kids from other positions. And the fact that they, and responding to adversity is one of those cliches that coaches are trying to teach across the city, across the state. But that's a fact around here. We've been dealing with injuries and the kids have stepped up and battled back. So that's an awesome character trait to have in a group of kids.
And even the games that you've lost, they've, for lack of a better term, they've kind of been close. You had a couple plays here or there. It was like you've got to be able to take that solace that it was like, look, we can hang with anybody if we just play our style.
Yeah, I agree, but it's sort of getting old to the coaches and the kids. We've done a good job of being competitive in first halves, and there's really no excuse. It's about results, and if we can keep it together for a full game, I think we can play with just about anybody.
What are some of the challenges that Bernie Champion's going to pose to you guys this week?
Oh, Bernie Champion has great athletes. They have great coaches. They're going to run plays fast. They're going to run multiple defensive fronts. They're a really good team.
Got a lot of really good coaches in our area. They wake up in the morning, they piss excellence. They do a great job. They do a fantastic job. They are first. They are not last. And gonna have a lot of fun tonight. I got 3 different costumes tonight, guys.
Do you really?
So yeah, I had 4. I'll be honest. I had 4, but I didn't think Jake from State Farm was going to work very well. They're not a sponsor, so I do have Ron Burgundy. I do have a fake mustache to wear, so that's going to be fun. And then I have a big ass hot dog costume. So
Let it rip, big fella.
hey, man, it's a high school football game. We're here to have some fun. That's all we got for you tonight or today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember, we do not have a Sneakers Cleats podcast on Monday. Get out and vote. I do want to give everyone a little bit of time. If you don't want to vote, at least watch the Broncos beat the Ravens. That's going to be really priority number 1 this weekend because the Broncos are about to hit their season win total, and I am praying to sweet baby Jesus, who is my favorite one, that we hit that win total, baby. So anyway, everyone have a good weekend.
Not Ricky Bobby.
I had to get as many Ricky